Good morning, everybody. It's me, Strimtom. Today, I'm bringing you information about what's coming in the most recent Lamannia preview. Now, this is going to be... There's a lot of content here. Let's just say that. There's a lot of things to look at, so I'm going to be doing my best to kind of give you the overview. I encourage you to read more about it in the links I'll have in the description, so you'll be able to see some more about this. So, some of this is being previewed here, some of this is being previewed early. There's a lot of different features in here. So one of the things that people are most excited about is the Dragonlord fighter archetype. This is the new archetype that is going to be released with the next update, which will be coming out. Update 66, I believe. This is going to be with the anniversary. We're getting the Dragonlord archetype. If you didn't hear the thing before, it's the Year of the Dragon and Dungeons & Dragons 50th anniversary, so DDO is going to be doing this to go with that. What is the Dragonlord? It is a fighter that instead of getting Kensai and Vanguard, you have the new Dragonlord tree and Ravager. Generally, the Dragonlord is going to be a character that has buffs for its party, and it's heavily focused on tactics DCs. So it's got lots of tactics, combat abilities, and other things. Now, this doesn't mean it doesn't do damage. It also does some damage, but it has a few changes directly from the regular fighter. So first, you get a Draconic Aura. Your Aura is a passive that once you pick it, it's stuck like that. You don't swap the auras, you just get one of these ones, and you get to hold on to it. And then, when you level up, you get a better aura that stacks, and then you get a third aura. Now, you have all of these three going at the same time, and they give these bonuses. They also get more powerful the more points you spend in your trees. So, for example, if you take Nevalarich's Hunger, you and all allies get +2 morale bonus to attack rolls, and that's just going to last, like, forever. That's just an eternal buff. So you can see it in-game here. This is my character, and this is what the aura looks like. It gives you this glow around your feet, so people know when you're a Dragonlord and you have the aura, and it applies to you and everybody else that is, in fact, around you. So there's the three auras. You can go offensive, defensive, damage, all sorts of other things. Pretty much everybody is probably going to be taking attack, damage, and power, but if you want to be more defensive or go with a different role, you can also do that as well. And then, of course, they get the Ravager tree, except anything that says Barbarian doesn't, anything that says Rage doesn't. So it's pretty straightforward. So what exactly does the Dragonlord tree do? It's a lot of text, but as I said, they'll give you the highlights. Number one, it has an imbue toggle based on the type of draconic soul that you have. So this is a character with a imbue that is a fighter. Fighters don't get any imbues. This one does. On top of that, the draconic, or was it the Dragonlord, also picks up on tactics DCs. So if I look in-game here, you have these lines up the tree. You have a defensive line that gives you bonuses based on your, or like resistances to your element of your dragon element. And you have another line that gives you tactics DCs. And as you get higher, not only does the resistance get more powerful and impactful, but also you get extra abilities where when you use tactics DCs, you now start adding more damage. Like when you sunder somebody, you get damage. When you trip somebody, you get damage, which is pretty cool. On top of that, the character also gets to specialize in a martial weapon, but getting two-weapon fighting, two-handed fighting, extra stats, or just double strike or double shot, because you can use this character with bow as well, which is interesting. You also get the Dragon's Roar, which is a big like roar where you just shout out and it stuns everything in front of you. Well, it's a daze, which then gets upgraded into a full stun when you get up to the tier 5, which is pretty good. You also get the difference between Action Boost Tactics and Action Boost Haste. Now for damage, you're always taking Action Boost Haste. However, Action Boost Tactics is a very interesting choice here, previously only available at Epics, so kind of cool that you get that as an option. And the thing you're going to hear the most about, which is kind of impactful, they get not only a charisma trance called Outburst, which requires you to be not lawful, and it gives you half of your charisma modifier, so it is basically Divine Might, but specifically for this, and you restore it by using tactics DCs, or Draconic Might, it's a strength trance. You get an extra half of your strength to attack, damage, and DCs of tactical feats. This is a very powerful effect, and you'll probably see a lot of people fiending to get this in here, and it's very cool. So overall, Dragonlord seems like it's going to be powerful, and it's going to do, I wouldn't say necessarily different things than Fighter, but it will do things in a different way. Again, with a more party buff-oriented thing, and having a bigger bend into tactics. I think that Kensai gets tactics kind of lopped into it when it's mostly just like damage, whereas this one gives you bonuses for using your trips, your sunders, extra damage, and on top of that has even a stun built in, so it's very different than that. Also, the Ravager tree, as I said, this used to be Barbarian Power Attack, now it's just Draconic Power Attack. And the Capstone Visage of Terror no longer costs rages to instantly kill people, it just instantly kills people. So very cool. It says cost rage, that's a typo. So that will get fixed. So overall, the Dragonlord, visually very cool. and it's exciting. So that's I'm a huge fan of that. I'm very excited to see how it goes. I'm not going to call it like busted right now, but it is a very, very good archetype, and I guarantee you it will see use right away. It is powerful. Also, the past life feat, because people will ask about it, +1 to damage with melee weapons, and +1 breath weapon DCs per past life, which is pretty nice. Now, the next thing that's going to be coming out with the patch is the Epic Destiny refresh. They're making a bunch of changes to the different Epic Destinies, and there's a lot of changes. So, I'm going to give you the TLDR of each one. Draconic Incarnation, the damage of Dragon Breath is coming down, and the cooldown is coming down. It's a pretty big damage decrease, so overall, is it going to be worse? Yes. Is it still going to be usable? Maybe. We'll see as we go through here, but it's about a 60% damage increase, so Dragon Breath is coming all the way down. Fatesinger is just having some stuff shoved around and changing the DCs, so now you can use any ability score with Fatesinger, as opposed to just Intelligence, Charisma, Dexterity, or Strength. Now you can also use Wisdom and Constitution, which you could not do before. Megs the Eclipse is getting a major rework. Effectively, the attacks are getting way more damage. All of the minion stuff is being combined into one channel, so you can choose the minion stuff or not. Choose the minion stuff and get something else. And then those extra spaces are being used to fill up with extra good stuff. So as a result, you can actually comfortably go to the tier 5 of Magus the Eclipse and get time stop without feeling like you're putting a bunch of points in minion things that don't do anything for you. Now, if you want minion stuff, you can get it, but if you don't want minion stuff, you can still spend a bunch of points and feel good about it. Big buffs for Magus the Eclipse, and I'm very excited. Macrotech has a nerf to the hammer spells, which I don't think needed it, but it doesn't really matter, you're still going to take them because they're good anyway. Exalted Angel got an entire rework on how Angelic Form works, their mantle. Now, when the epic moment, what it used to do is you would press a button and you would have this ring around you, and then anything that walked into the ring took damage, and the allies that walked into the ring got healed. Instead, that's just the mantle. So when you cast a Firelight or Positive spell, you will get a ring around you that will deal damage to enemies when you walk through them and heal allies. It's pretty cool. I do like it. I think the cooldown is a little bit too long on this. It should be like maybe 2 or 3 seconds. It's currently like 5 or 6. And so it's really wacky how to use it. But overall, I ran around with it a bit. I did some testing. It feels very good. It encourages you to actively play all the time. And some people were worried it makes you feel like you're in melee. It's a second rank sort of thing. You want to be moving around the battlefield, which feels very much for like an Angel of Battle sort of thing. On top of that, it also buffs and debuffs people, so it increases your allies' physical and magical resistance rating and debuffs your enemies, so you can actually increase the damage that they take, which is pretty cool. They also buffed up Shadows Upon You to make it better. They nerfed Holy Fireball's damage, unfortunately. And then Ascendance, the new epic moment, is now all of your single target Cure Wounds spells apply to everyone. So that means if, let's say, you're in a big fight, like the final boss fight of Skeletons in the Closet, and there's people on the exact other side of the room for you and you can't heal them, you can press Ascendance, and now, no matter who you target, it heals everyone in your party for 20 seconds. And then, once those 20 seconds are over, you can't do that anymore. Very powerful ability. Going to be more useful in raiding than it is in regular content, but still not too bad. I don't know what the radius is on this. I'm going to be testing that later, but this could also be a situation where, let's say you're on Hardcore League, and somebody you don't know where they are starts dying. You could potentially pop Ascendance and then start healing yourself, and it would heal them. But again, I'm going to test the range, but I think that could work. Grandmaster Flowers, buff to the Drifting Lotus damage, buff to the Orchid Blossom damage, and apparently they fixed some bugs. I don't know what that is. Shadow Dancer. There's more changes in here than you would think, but long story short, the Epic Strike, there's 3 versions of it. There's a ranged melee and a spell version. The spell used to shoot at a blade, now it's shooting out like a Force Lightning Bolt, so it's much better, it hits multiple targets, as opposed to just one, and the cooldown for all 3 is down to 8 seconds, which is almost half of the cooldown. As a result, the Shadow Dancer Epic Strike, which was already doing a good amount of damage before, it just wasn't that amazing because it had to compete with Adrenaline or Hunt's End, both of which had shorter cooldowns. Now it does compete with those, so it might be one of the better epic strikes to use, or it's going to be a bit of a wait and see, but they're all quite good. And also you can now keep up the buffs that they give you 100% of the time, as opposed to having this 5-second downtime, so it's pretty neat. They also buffed up some of the tier 5s, which I don't think are going to matter too much, but still, the Epic Strike being a lot better is kind of the main thing we're looking at here. Oh, also Weird, which is the spell that instantly kills people. It used to be a spell added to your spellbook. Now it's just a spell-like ability, which means that, let's say you're playing an illusion-focused fighter for some bizarre reason, you can now use Weird, which is a buff, I guess. Fear of the Wild. They made 2 major buffs and 1 nerf. Adrenaline has a slightly longer cooldown, just by 1 second. So it's still good, but it has 1 second longer cooldown. Great Leveler, which is the big knockdown at the end that, in my opinion, kind of sucks. Now it has a no-save knockdown no matter what. So no matter what, if you use Great Leveler, it always knocks somebody down for 2 seconds, even if they make their save, which is actually very good and helps with the viability of the skill a lot. And Quick Cutter has been changed to a Whirlwind attack. Now, if you don't know what Quick Cutter is, don't worry. Most people haven't. I made a video about Quick Cutter last year, and yeah, it's a confusing ability. Most people haven't seen it. Now, it's a Whirlwind attack. It always gives you Quick. It always gives you Cutter, and the damage is a little bit lower, but it's now slashing damage, which means it scales off of physical resistance rating reduction, so the damage will end up being higher when you are built into it from physical resistance rating reduction abilities. So, is it good? Well, it's way better than it was before, and for single target damage, it's also going to be better than it was before. So, is it good enough to beat Adrenaline? I don't know, but it is a huge buff, so you'll see people using Quick Cutter in general. Primal Avatar, I'm not going to talk about this much because it's not even on the patch and we couldn't test it, but they're buffing the damage on Stormcatcher in Spring to Summer, and they are making so Carrion Swarm has a save on it, which means that Carrion Swarm, unfortunately, will probably no longer work on the fun tank, and that character might die. Shira Champion had a couple changes. The main change is that Phalites, the ability that you've also probably never heard of because it's the spell in Shira Champion, yeah, that now does damage, which doesn't make it amazing, but it at least gives it some reason to use it. Also, the 4th core now gives you +1 many shot charges, which is actually pretty good. Hunt's End got a nerf by 1 second, just like Adrenaline, because they're basically the same ability. And Pin and Otto's Whistler are now Area of Effect, which we'll talk about in just a second. On top of that, one of the things I missed is that they actually just did a pass over the visuals of a lot of the trees to make stuff line up. So now all the mantles will have a purple border. All of the epic strikes have a blue border, so you know which one is in the trees. And now if something is like an epic strike, it'll be like a line of the upgrades. And same thing, the mantles will have like a line in the tree. So it's not like, you know, they're helter-skelter all over the place. It's just easier to read the trees. So if you've never seen them before, it'll be easier to read by the time that you get there. But let's talk about the AOE. Nope. Yes, this one, AOE Range Attacks. So one of my biggest problems with playing ranged is that ranged characters, unfortunately, have basically no way to deal area of effect damage. It is deeply frustrating, and it's something that is very, very annoying to manage. However, they're making a change, and they're testing it out to see how it is, and when they test it, we're going to see exactly what this ends up looking like overall. But the idea is that they're going to make some abilities deal AoE damage when you hit a target with your shot. So as an example, with Scattershot here, Scattershot used to fire 3 arrows and hopefully hit somebody that was nearby you. New Scattershot fires 1 arrow and it hits a target and it deals damage to all of those that are around it. And I'm going to give you a visual example right now when I log into this character. As well, Pin is going to have the same functionality. These won't work with Improved Precise Shot, so you can just shoot through a line and have a bunch of AoE explosions. But that is generally the idea, that you can fire an arrow and it does an area of effect damage. This is very relevant for a lot of characters because one of the biggest pain points of playing any ranged character is hitting multiple targets. Yes, you can use Improved Precise Shot, but sometimes Improved Precise Shot can be clunky, and especially with lag, it gets even worse to try to manage. In this case, see these kobolds here? If I shoot them, I only shoot one with my arrows. I only shoot one at a time, so I actually only hit one target. But with this new ability, Scattershot, I press Scattershot, and boom, I hit every kobold in the area. It's basically an area of effect ability now. So even if I shoot it from any angle, that one arrow hits all the nearby monsters. It's really cool. I love it. If the tech works and doesn't destroy the game, I hope they expand this out to other abilities. I don't think there needs to be like 1,000 abilities that do this, but they could probably work in one to each different style. So for example, Arcane Archer could get like Fireball Arrow, where you shoot an arrow, it hits a target, there's a fireball visual effect, and it does a little bit of extra fire damage on your range attack, and it hits all the targets. Or Fan of Knives from Vistani Knife Fighter could be like literally Fan of Knives, and it's instead of it being a cone that you hit and it does like an AoE spread damage, it's like you attack and it does an AoE explosion on the target or whatever it is. So there's a lot of options there, but overall this is a experimental new feature, and I am hopeful that they don't see any bad performance issues from this. Because from my testing, it's so good. It's so good. It feels so good. Like, I was running around in the harbor, and there were some kobolds chasing after me, and normally when that happens, you have to slowly whittle them down one by one, but all I had to do was hit one kobold, and then they all exploded. It was fantastic. Also, it's AoE breaks boxes, which might not seem like a big deal, but this is in pin from Shirati Champion, so which means if I go and grab Shirati here, you can see this is actually a great idea. You can see now the borders here. It's like a nice pretty border because it's an epic strike, but I use pin. And this ability is also area of effect. So not only does area pin slow everyone that gets hit by it, but it's also dealing damage. So I can go ahead, hit this kobold, hit him with the pin, and then boom, he's pinned, his friend is pinned, his other friend is pinned, so they're all pinned, and they also all took the damage. So I'm very excited about the possibility of this. We don't need a lot of these, but a couple here and there would be very nice, because it's going to feel a lot more like, you know, some of the other games that have area of effect range characters, like World of Warcraft, or Lord of the Rings Online, or Elder Scrolls Online, or Guild Wars 2, or Final Fantasy 14. You know, all these games have AoE ranged characters, so I can't wait to see it, and I'm very stoked for this change. Now, the next thing is the tooltip overhaul. This one is boring, but good. They just changed tooltips, so they automatically generate in new ways. So basically, better descriptions, better information for what you need to know. So as an example, when looking at a tooltip for a spell, let's take Delayed Blast Fireball, you can now see there's bullet points, there's color coding, so the save for Reflex will be green, Fortitude is red, and I believe Will Save is blue. The cost will be in spell point, it's blue, but then for other different spells you cast, it is a different color depending on which one it is, and you can see all the detail there. So they just cleaned up a lot of the tooltips in the game to make them more readable, to give you better information as well, which is pretty nice. Also, this spell doesn't reference spell resistance because it's not affected. There's no spell resistance on here, but this spell does. Spell resistance check required. You can see that little blue light there versus this one, which has nothing to say. Again, it gives you that little bit of missing piece of information, so if you're somebody who doesn't know what spell resistance is for, now you can clearly see that. This one says spell resistance check required, and this one does not. So if you're somebody who doesn't really understand spell resistance and what spells it affects, it's really clear now. So hopefully that will make it easier for people that are out there. And then last but not least, there's the new quest, Fred's First Date. I have not had the chance to play it, but I'm going to, and it looks like it's going to be really fun. So overall, there's also a bunch of bug fixes, and they fixed a bunch of good stuff. I'm not going to go into the bug fixes too much. There's nothing really of like great note. But overall, the new patch is looking great. Dragonlord is looking very strong and well themed, so I'm excited for it. The Epic Destiny refresh, when it comes to spellcasters, a lot of the Epic Destinies are getting much better for spellcasters, and Draconic Incarnation is coming down. I think that spellcasters still could use a little bit more work with some of the spellcasting Epic Destinies, and I think they could do a little bit better with that. So hopefully just change up some damage. The biggest one for me is that a lot of the spell-based Epic Destinies still have a maximum cast level on their spells, so their damage is actually heavily limited. So hopefully they maybe make some adjustments on that or move there. But yeah, overall, I'm excited about a lot of the Epic Destiny changes. I don't really care too much about Dragon Breath not being the best and B1, be-all, end-all ability. I'm okay with it kind of moving, the goal moving to other things, because Draconic Incarnation is still going to be good regardless. But it would be nice, if you could still at least scale it properly with other abilities. And just generally, I'm excited for stuff like the reworked Exalted Angel, where you have this like cool interplay where you got to cast spells and kind of be in combat, get your mantle working, or Magus the Eclipse, where now you can just confidently get to time stop and feel good about it. So a lot of that stuff feels pretty good. Tooltips looking good. AoE ranged. Thank you. Thank you, Stay Still Games. Thank you. I've wanted that for so long. Thank you. This is amazing. And I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, so that's all I have for you today. I'm going to be doing more in-depth stuff when it comes to the Dragonlord. After this video goes up, I will be doing a entire past life, like a whole TR, all the way through the game to test out the Dragonlord to see how it feels on the preview server, to look for bugs, but also to see how does it feel to play a new different type of fighter, and how does it feel compared to Kensai, because I very recently did that on hardcore. So we're going to see how that goes, and hopefully it will be fun. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your entire day, and I'm excited for the new stuff. I don't know why I paused. I just kind of froze up. It's weird.